Now, many older people who retired due to health concerns during the pandemic are now entering the workforce. That's right, it's going the other way around. They're coming out of retirement back into work. The phenomenon is commonly referred to as and I didn't know this, I do now, the Great Unretirement. The Great Unretirement. South Africa has bucked worldwide trends by keeping the retirement age at 60. And there's a lot of talk at the moment, is that too early? Experts are arguing that many people can't actually afford to retire at that age. Well, let's hear now from Mark Bussin from the South African Reward Association. Mark, good morning. If I got your surname incorrect, please correct me, Doctor. I don't want to get that wrong. Morning to you. So are we retiring too early?
Good morning. So my surname's absolutely perfect. Thank you very much. Yes, we are. 60 is the national average, and some take it to 63. But think about it. Many of us are living to 90. It's Nelson Mandela's birthday today, and my late father's. They both lived into their 90s. That means you've got to have enough retirement money for 40 years, and it just is not enough.
Yeah, my condolences to you on your late father and, of course, Mandela, because you're quite right, today, 18 July. So why, as a country, do we seem to be bucking the trend? Because I think many people will think that 60 today is far too young to be retiring. Why do we still have this retirement age? How do we change this?
Indeed. So 60 is the new 40 in my view. And one of the reasons, so there could be a few, but one of them is that we want folk to leave organizations to create space for folk coming up and to create space for folk that are unemployed. The theory is that you've had a bite at the cherry, you've been working for 40 years, you should have accumulated enough money, and now it's your time to go. There's another view that by 60 or 63 or 65, your sell-by date has come and gone, and that we need fresh ideas, new blood, and new thinking. So that's what's causing it.
Yeah. I suppose there's going to be this issue, and I suppose this is where the contestation is going to come in, where you have someone perhaps reaching that age, is more than capable of continuing doing the job, perhaps being a mentor, being a trainee, can pass on that knowledge. But then you've got the company going, well, we don't really have space for you. We want the new blood and to get you out. So where do we start finding a middle ground? Is this one or the other, or is there a middle ground, do you think, Doc?
That's perfectly put. So the answer's and. We can move them onto a separate lane and give them contracts. The universities, for example, are doing that with A-rated and B-rated and C-rated professors who are still more than capable of supervising PhDs and doing research. Organizations like the HSRC and CSIR should be thinking about that too, and are. And there's some folk that can work well into their 90s, especially for this mental work. And think about all the mentoring that can go on. 30, 40 years of experience mentoring folk who are coming into the workplace. Instead of paying lots of money for outside coaches, use the folk that you have.
I suppose if we move away just from the employment part of this as well and back to the personal issues that you're going to encounter when you retire at 60, unless you've done incredibly well for yourself and you've never been affected by things like high interest rates and inflation and everything else going on, it's very unlikely, if you're a middle-class South African, that you can retire comfortably. You could probably get away with it, but it's not where you want to be. The cost of living is just too high to retire early.
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on who you ask, there are many estimates around who can retire when, but my calculations, around 15% of people can retire at the moment, which means you've got 85% of people that still need to do something. So if you do retire at 60 or 65, you need to be thinking about the next career or the second career. In other words, going back to university. I was talking to a coach the other day that had someone who was 85 as a client. So it really is happening. The second career is an option, and there are many options, and people just need to think outside the box. There's tutoring, there's coaching, there's lecturing, there's your own business, there's subsistence farming, where you start growing some of your own crops and buy chickens and a cow and make self-sustainable. But folk are doing that, and we're finding a lot of elderly people now starting to apply for jobs. So before, you'd never think of applying for a job at the age of 60, and before you'd never have an employer that would consider it. but we do have a skills deficit. So Home Affairs are trying to fix that by changing some of the rules and policies that govern getting people into the country. But until we can get our schools and universities up and running that are providing the right skills for what organizations need, we're going to have this deficit. And the obvious answer would be your 60, 65-year-old person who's still fresh as a daisy, can run around the block 100 times and is mentally sharp.
Now, I know a bunch of people in their 60s who are in much better mental condition and physical condition than I am as well. They'll put me to shame. But, Doctor, thank you very much indeed. Food for thought this morning, Dr. Mark Bussin, SA Reward Association as well. So is 60 still too young in your mind? You agree that 60 is far too young to retire? If you look at the cost of living, you'd have to keep yourself going financially and sustain yourself for 3 decades, 4 decades if you're that lucky as well. But perhaps you're one of those who feels at the age of 60, even 65, is far too young to retire, especially if you have so much that you can give back. You can go ahead and tweet us at ENCA. Maybe it's a conversation for tomorrow. Just after